Hi, welcome back to the online tutorial on action research. I hope you've been following along the activities, and if so, congratulations, because you are now ready to write the reflection, which is really the conclusion of your Cycle 1 report. This tutorial will focus on helping you write that reflection. Now, it's important to understand the difference between reflective and descriptive writing. Reflections are things that aren't exactly how they happened, but really your understanding of how they happened. So for example, this camera is reflecting my image. I am standing in front of a glass that reflects trees that are actually in front of me. So this image is a constructed image. It's not an image that exists in the world. It is a reflection of the world. Your reflective writing will be about your view of the way things have taken place in this last period of time. So in order to get started in writing your reflections, I suggest that you do a number of things. Hopefully you've been keeping up on writing your journal or your blog. This is important because this forms the data of your reflection. Just like you analyze data from your action research on what happened when you put in place your social action, this is where you analyze your own comments over time. So I've asked you to go through and actually annotate your blog or your journal. So you do this by looking for things like links between your actions and the reactions, or looking for insights, or looking for particular ideas that might have seemed really important at the time, and thinking about the way in which they are important now. So reflections are really putting together things from the present with things from the past, with ideas, thoughts, and projections onto the future. So that's what you're going to be doing. So once you've read through your blogs and you have a sense of what is in them, so that kind of documents your thinking over time, the next step is to reflect on your action and to think about what happened and why it happened. How is it connected to things that have happened in the past, and what are connections to things that might happen in the future? So spend some time thinking. It's often good before you write a reflection to do some kind of activity like running, something that gets your mind in a meditative mood, and use that time to think about the actions that you took and what happened. The third step is to evaluate your reflection. So the first thing you do is ask yourself, did I reveal things that were not visible with the eye? That is, are they a constructed version in which I put together my own ideas, my own view of the situation? Am I revealing things that a camera couldn't have captured? Okay, if not, then you haven't gone deep enough. You haven't asked why things happened. You haven't explored the reasons behind, or your assumptions and your intuitions and your beliefs about why things turned out the way they did. Okay, and that's what you're really looking at now. It might help to take your logic model out and look at the things that you thought would happen and see how many of them did happen, and also see what kinds of assumptions that you made that might not have been correct. For example, in a recent action research project I did, I assumed that the technology would be much easier for people to learn than it turned out to be. So technology turned out to be a larger stumbling block than I expected it to be. The last thing that you do in the reflection is to ask yourself, did it generate new ideas for the next cycle? What kinds of things that happen while you're reflecting that might lead you to a different innovation cycle next time? So look for ideas, look for hints about what you think might have worked better than what actually happened. The resources for this section are lots of different reflective questions. One way of doing reflection might not work for everybody. That's why I provided a number of different ways to structure reflection, a number of different reflective questions that might help you think more deeply about what happened. You don't need to respond to all of the questions, but find the prompts that work best for you. While you're thinking about writing your own reflection, I thought it might be helpful to have an action researcher who's worked with me in the past share some of his views on reflection. Dan Wood was one of the most reflective students that I've worked with, but he didn't start that way, and he actually discovered a number of prompts that worked for him when he was writing his reflection. But the thing that I remember most about working with Dan was that he was so passionate about the change that he wanted to put in place for his action research, and he worked so hard in his first cycle to get other people to see how his idea for change was so powerful and would be so successful. And he was frustrated because they didn't share that same view. But then, after talking to other action researchers and reflecting on his cycle 1, he realized that it was the passion that he had that was really empowering him. So if he wanted to empower these other people, he needed to get them to be passionate about the change. And maybe it required a little bit of ownership on their part. So maybe he had to let go of some parts of his own ideas and have the group generate an idea that they would be really passionate about. So that issue of ownership and passion and the way in which energy drives change was something that came to him through his reflective process. So I'm going to let Dan say a few words about reflection.
Hi, I'm Dan Wood from Cadre 11, sharing some thoughts on reflection. Within action research, reflection takes place throughout the process of each cycle and cumulatively at the end of each cycle. The process of reflection is used to gain perspective and understanding of one's actions, motivations for action, and social outcomes. The reflection strategy I started with was outlined in 2001 by Coughlin and Brannock. It involved first capturing a camera-eyes view of the event in question, reflecting on the feelings and interpretations of the event from my perspective, and then conceptualizing. The conceptualization focused on building an understanding of the underlying beliefs and perceptions that influenced the way I acted and others reacted in a given situation. As I moved through my action research project, enjoying the process of pursuing a positive change and the meta process of learning how to apply action research, I received feedback from my professor that my reflections could go deeper. While she felt I was doing a good job of capturing the key events, emotions, and other details within my reflections, there was a superficial nature to them that failed to dig into the why behind the what of my actions. As I reviewed this feedback with a colleague, she recommended that I focus on the underlying beliefs and perceptions that might be influencing the way I both act and react in given situations, or the conceptualization. More specifically, she felt I should be focused on what even may be behind those beliefs and perceptions, the causality for my perception of reality, if you will. It was during this discussion that I came upon a new way to structure my reflections that took my action research to the next level by adding a new level, the meta-conceptualization. By exploring a metacognitive analysis of my motivations or beliefs and values, I was able to understand my own actions in a way I never had before. The ultimate outcome of using this process was that I became a much more curious and reflective individual who did not react negatively to interactions that may have previously triggered me. I was able to place some distance between myself and my actions, seeing difficult interactions from multiple perspectives, which reduced the number of difficult interactions overall. Through reflections, I became able to choose better actions that resulted in the positive outcomes or change that I was seeking, whether in a simple interpersonal interaction or over the course of a large-scale project.
So each of you need to find the reflective strategy that works for you, and the important thing is that at this point that you're able to listen or reread and think about what you've learned so far in your action research. I hope your reflections have led you to a new cycle, and I look forward to coming back next time and talking a little bit more about cycles, how they're defined, how you know when one cycle is over and you start a next cycle. So until then, enjoy your process. Bye.